You are listening to Fantasy Filmball with Matt and Dylan, and on this show we turn movies into sports and look at all the Oscar prospects and their fantasy value.
I believe that this is going to win Best Picture, and here's why.
I mean, Denis Villeneuve got all the nominations he needed for Dune and still missed out on the Best Director slot.
Don't let me get my hopes up. The Academy has disappointed me too many times.
Thank you to the Academy. Thank you to all of you in this room.
I can't remember the last time I walked out of a movie theater on such a high.
No matter how certain it seems, anything can happen on nominations morning.
Never count the Golden Globes for just doing something off the walls and bonkers.
It's the kind of movie that reminds me of why I fell in love with movies.
And the Oscar goes to...
Welcome into episode 19 of Fantasy Filmball. My name is Dyl.
And my name is Matt, and this is the show where we turn movies into sports and sports into something we don't talk about here. And welcome to this episode. We got our first nominations of the year. This is a big deal every single year. Even though it's the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards, we are here to talk about them and to start the ball rolling on awards season. How are you feeling now? First week of awards season, officially.
So, I can answer this two ways. We have the positive angle and the negative angle. The positive angle, in my other league, I have a Descendant, so I feel really good about picking on the 9th. But for our league, Senior didn't show up, and All That Breeze didn't show up. So that's two of my docs that didn't show up here in their first nominations for at least the Critics' Choice. And yeah, so there's some positives, some negatives. There's putting my team aside, Fire of Love showed up, and I love that movie. So good job, Fire of Love. It may not be the big miss of the year, but other than that, a little overall. But how do you feel?
You know what? Like putting aside points and everything from documentaries, we'll get to a more detailed breakdown of the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards in just a moment. But I don't know why I always get so excited for the Critics' Choice Documentary nominations. And I think it is just because it's the first stop in awards season. Like, this is the first time you see that, like, IndieWire article of, like, the Critics' Choice nominees, full list. And that is just so exciting to me because it truly marks, like, yeah, TIFF is the beginning of awards season, but we don't get any awards until this. So, you know, putting aside all of the documentaries, putting aside what's on my team, what's not on my team, I'm just happy that we made it here and that it only goes up from here. We get the Gotham nominations this week. We're probably going to start getting some weird critics awards shortly after that. So, you know, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling like award season is upon us. The meat of the podcast is coming.
It only took 19
start talking
weeks
about these things. It only took 19 weeks of just nothing and nothing and nothing. And now we have nominations for something. Yeah. But anyways, because the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards are this week, we're going to start off, as always, with a question. And this week, we're going to talk about some favorite documentaries. So, actually, I want to start first on this one. I'm going to talk about this just a little bit later. But I actually got to interview Sarah Polley last night of Women Talking, if you don't know. But yeah, so I had the chance to do like a 15-minute interview with her, and it made me think about her documentary film, Stories We Tell, and how that film, when I saw that in like 2013 or so, I think I was probably in the 9th grade at the time when I saw Stories We Tell. And that film, like, reshaped how I thought about documentaries. Because before Stories We Tell, I thought that documentaries were, like, just this thing that you, like, this educational thing with, like, a Ken Burns zoom on a still photograph. And Stories We Tell shattered my fucking brain and was, like, presented an alternate route for what a documentary could be. I don't want to spoil it because I assume you haven't seen it, Dill. But
I have not.
You should check out Stories We Tell, man. It's so I'll give you the basic premise of Stories We Tell. It's Sarah Polley takes on a documentary film about her family, and specifically about the realization when she was an adult that the man that she had thought was her father her entire life might actually not be her biological father. and that she starts to piece together the breadcrumb trail of, was my mother cheating on my father? And she tries to track down her biological father. And it's all collected through these clips of archival footage and home videos and everything, especially because Sarah Polley's mother died when she was 11. It's an exceptional film, and it's not really a twist, but like I always kind of feel like it's a twist, because at the very end there's this kind of revelation that I don't want to say, but it really broke my brain in a way that just, it cracked things open and showed me, yeah, documentaries can be so much more than what I thought they could be. So, yeah, what's your favorite documentary, man? I went on a little bit.
No.
I'll talk about Sarah Polley more later.
Feel free, go on. Here, we're Sarah Polley fan club here at Fantasy Filmball. But for for best documentary, my favorite documentary, that is, I feel like this is cheating because, yes, it is a doc, but it kind of is a limited series. It's OJ Made in America. That would be my version of a doc that showed me docs can be more than the Ken Burns, or more than just something you watch in school. It can be something fun and engaging where maybe the subject matter isn't fun, but watching it can be fun. And I'm a huge sports fan, and this was just right up my alley when it came out. That was the same year I think the OJ TV show came out, so it was a lot of OJ content all at once, right when I was getting into film and getting into TV. So this was like perfect, all my quadrants of what I enjoy at the time. Movies, sports, entertainment, all put in one. Murder too, yes.
Of course.
I say that I'm a huge
Dylan
sports
is a
fan.
big murder fan.
Big murder fan. And saying that I love sports, I haven't seen Hoop Dreams, so I can't say is this the best sports doc of all time. Yes, I know.
Yo, what?
For the audio viewers, Matt just made the oh my gosh, what face? Yes, I haven't seen Hoop Dreams. It's on my list. I kind of forget about it, and then I'm like, wait, I haven't seen Hoop Dreams yet. So that's something I hope to get into soon. But if I have a little bit of recency bias, I would love to give a shout out to Summer of Soul from last year. That was my number 2 movie of last year, in fact, only being edged out by 9 days.
Really?
And I adored Summer of Soul. The music that was featured was the music I grew up with, so it was just like OJ Made in America. It was hitting all of my quadrants all at once. Very stylistic, very edited. It was a concert. It had great interviews combated with the footage, and Summer of Soul is just like my favorite type of doc, while I would say OJ Made in America is probably like, if I had to pick one to be like the best type of doc. But what about you, Matt? I know I blew your mind with saying I haven't seen Hoop Dreams, but you have seen Hoop Dreams probably.
Dude, you need to see Hoop Dreams. You're gonna love it. You're gonna love Hoop Dreams. Dude, I'm going to be honest, I don't get Summer of Soul. I have watched it multiple times to be like, because the first time I was like, I watched it at a film festival for the first time, and while watching it, I was like, oh yeah, this is solid. It's like, I like the music, but I don't love it. And then I watched it again. I think I watched it twice more to be like, did I miss something? And every time I've liked it a little bit less. So I'm glad to hear that you really enjoyed it, but it just, it didn't do it for me, and I'm disappointed in that because I love Questlove, I love soul music, but yeah, Summer of Soul, not for me. But yeah, I mean, I talked about Stories We Tell. If I had to shout out like a concert documentary that is for me, because I do like some concert docs, it'd be Stop Making Sense, Talking Heads. That's like the concert movie in my books. It's Stop Making Sense. So good. Anyways, we're going to jump away from documentaries for just like a tiny moment and talk about a Filmball update. Now, there is not a whole lot of changes this week. Not much has changed, but I will say that we have added the Metacritic points for Aftersun. It's got a 96.
I mean, you talked about not getting Summer of Soul. I didn't really get Aftersun, so this can be my little, the audience can, throw some digs at me because Aftersun wasn't really for me. 96 to me is like, whoa, how, where? But I get a lot of other people really love this movie. So, yeah, that's a huge point getter for anyone who drafted this in any draft. It's one that went pretty late, too, so it's a lot of points early, and I'm sure with this 96, it will be getting nominations from various different critic circles throughout the season.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it sweeps the trifecta. I don't think it will. I'm just saying that, like, oh, what if? But, like, what if? Could this get into Best Picture? Like, is that a thing that could happen?
No.
I don't think either, but, like...
What's his package?
I feel like with a 96 Metacritic, like, we have to seriously consider that something could happen with this beyond BAFTA.
I mean, I still think we talked about this before when we both watched the movie back in the end of July, early August, and I still think the max this movie can go is various small, like, critic circles, and maybe it gets BAFTA, like, best film overall, not just best British film, and I just don't see what packages it could get into the Oscar, because I don't think Paul Mescal is big enough to get into supporting actor. I don't see this cracking the screenplay race. I don't see this getting anything below the line, so it would be like the anomaly of like Best Picture and nothing else, which I can't even remember the last time that happened. It's probably not been for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. But, like, I feel like we still have to kind of consider... I don't know. I don't think it's actually a thing. But 96 is really... That's like Moonlight scores.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is that A24 isn't going to give a shit about Aftersun in the awards race unless they, like, decide to drop one of their other films and be like, Aftersun, which would be a total A24 move and a horrible mistake.
In other years, maybe it could work, but this year, they have Everything Everywhere All at Once, which everyone loves. Even they have The Whale, which everyone loves, Brendan Fraser. So those are your two heavy horses. You can't really drop one. Like, this was last year, the year before. Yeah, you have space to push this late contender. I shouldn't say late, it's October. But this new contender that you weren't already previously thinking is your number one or number two. But this year, I just don't know what they can drop, because when has A24 ever been able to successfully push 3 movies, let alone, I guess, 2, but 3? And I just don't see the route. This would be one that would be solely on, like, critics' backs if it went anywhere close to the Oscars.
Right. Well, and another Metacritic point add to the game is The Banshees of Inisherin just got a 90, which, if we're looking at, like, the Best Picture contenders, the accepted Best Picture movies, this is the highest behind Tar. Actually, I think Tar is also at a 90 right now. So that's very interesting to me, especially because Banshees was a film that went pretty late in most leagues. In our league, Banshees went in the 3rd round. And this just goes to show what we'd both been saying, actually, leading up to the game in some of our podcast episodes, which is that a lot of the Best Picture nominees are going to be films that go in the 3rd round. And the Banshees is totally one of those, because, yeah, that 90 on Metacritic is an astoundingly good score.
Definitely. This is one that at the beginning of the year, you and I were both kind of like, could this be something? Could it not? We've mentioned how previous directors' works and their follow-ups aren't always successes at the Oscars, but it seems like Banshees is breaking that streak, at least for Martin McDonagh, and will be back, because this seems like it's screaming for Best Picture, a Best Screenplay nomination, leading actor, supporting actress, maybe even supporting actor, depending on how that category goes. Will it do much below the lines? Probably not, but that's a huge above-the-line package. And you mentioned the 3rd round draftees, and this year's 3rd round looks pretty good in retrospect. I mean, you have Glass Onion, you have Banshees, you have Elvis, you have Wakanda
Black
Forever.
Panther.
You have Triangle of Sadness, and then, of course, you have your pick of Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio. So there's... I forgot what the stat Arno mentioned, because he mentioned during the draft itself. It's either like 2 or 3 third-round draft picks a year usually make it into Best Picture. And, I mean, it could be Banshees, it could be Pinocchio, because that had its premiere last week, and it got very, very good reviews.
Yeah, I mean, I just said that Banshees and Tar are the highest Best Picture contenders right now. But Pinocchio has a goddamn 93. And I've been saying, actually, for a little bit that I was like, okay, what's the Metacritic score that Netflix would need to see from Pinocchio for them to be like, maybe we should push this for Best Picture. Maybe it's not Glass Onion, maybe it's not Bardo, maybe Pinocchio's our push. And I said to myself, I'm like, okay, I think that the number that Netflix needs to see is at least 10 points higher than Glass Onion. which would have been a 91, and we're at a 93. So I think that this is just so clearly Netflix's critical favorite of the year that to me it just is an obvious pick for Netflix to push for Best Picture. And does it have a chance of getting in with someone like Guillermo del Toro behind it, with all this critical support, with what seems to be, it's going to be an audience hit? It's apparently a tearjerker. It's incredibly emotional. Apparently the music is beautiful. The puppets are astounding. I don't know. I mean, I'm always a big animated film, like, optimist. Like, when Soul came out in 2020, I was behind it all the way, being like, yes, this is going to be a Best Picture nominee. It's going to make it. It's a weak year. It's going to make it. But you know what? Pinocchio can do it. Pinocchio can do it. I'm just going to say it until it happens. Pinocchio can do it.
I mean, we talked, it was either last week or the week before, about Best Adapted Screenplay and how we had like a consensus, like top 3, top 4. Pinocchio could be a adapted screenplay contender for that 5th slot if it keeps its critical support, if it gets audience support when it comes on Netflix. Its package could be adapted, it could be song, it could be production design, it could be animated feature, it could maybe even sneak its way into picture. I mean, we saw last year of Nightmare Alley, you cannot count out Guillermo del Toro. It doesn't matter even if the movie isn't that loved. He still has his fans, he still has support, and he was able to carry that movie into picture. So why couldn't he carry a movie that's even better critically rated into picture? Just as one, downside, maybe not to us, but to maybe some Academy voters, is that it's animated. But I think this will be the real test of the show. We're in the field of 10 now, confirmed every year. Does that matter? Are we able to get animated features in? Because Soul, I think, would have made it in if there's 10. Yes, it didn't have the package overall, but in that...
I don't think it would have, actually, because we're forgetting that there was 8 nominees that year, and both One Night in Miami and Ma Rainey, which were expected to be in that top 8, were both snubbed, and those were probably 9 and 10.
I think 9. I mean, I think Soul could get in. I think Soul was probably like 12 or 13. I think that that year Borat would have been in because of its screenplay nomination and its chance. At that time of nominations, Bakalova was still the front runner for supporting actress at that time. She was at the end, but during nomination time. And I think One Night in Miami would have been the other one. I think not One Night in Miami. Sorry, Ma Rainey would have been the other one. I still think One Night in Miami would have missed even with 10. But moving away from 2020 back here to 2021, there was a 2022, that is
2022.
COVID, it's really messing with my sense of time, and so it is with Sony Pictures with Creed 3. They're Sony, right? Creed Sony, or was that Universal?
I want to say Sony. Right, I don't know.
For me to sound smart on here, for everyone listening out there, we're going to say Sony. Sony's also been really confused what to do with Creed 3, because this movie was supposed to come out like 2 years ago, and COVID keeps pushing and pushing, but guess what? We finally have a trailer, and it's Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut, which is really cool to me, at least, seeing someone that you've seen as an actor for a while get their start at directing. I'm sure this is what a lot of people felt when Bradley Cooper got his turn with A Star is Born. Because I wasn't in the film scene when Bradley Cooper was first rising, but I was when Michael B. Jordan was first rising. So I've got to see his career grow from Fruitvale Station all the way here to now directing Creed 3. And at least to me, this trailer looks really, really good. I wasn't a huge fan of Creed 2, but I loved the first Creed. And I felt like Creed 2 lacked any flavor, lacked any style, any substance. It lost Coogler, so it lost everything he brought. But it looks like Michael B. Jordan's at least bringing something new to the franchise. And we talked about this last week with the Virginia Film Festival, but Jonathan Majors is in this. And I sure do love Jonathan Majors in anything he does, and he looks great in this trailer. Matt, what did you think about this? Because you just watched this trailer.
Yeah, so Creed 1, I think, is a masterpiece. I think it's one of the best franchise films of recent time. I actually think Creed is the best Rocky film. I'm not a huge... I really like Rocky, but I'm not someone who lives and dies by the altar of the Rocky films or even the first film. Creed, I really think, is the best you could get in that formula with the mentorship dynamic and everything. Creed 2, I didn't really love it, but I do disagree with you. I still think it had a bit of the style, a bit of the flair. It was obviously an imitation, but it was still an imitation of something really good, which means that it was pretty solid. It wasn't amazing, but I think I gave it like a mid to light 7 out of 10. Whereas Creed I would have given like a light 10 out of 10. And with Creed 3, yeah, I'm excited to see what Michael B. Jordan does. Yeah, I think Jonathan Majors looks really good. I'm not hooked yet. I don't think I will be hooked. I think this is going to be mostly the same as Creed 2 for me, where I'm going to be like, yeah, it was solid. It was serviceable, but it might not be something that's going to stick with me or be like one of my favorites of the year.
No, definitely. I mean, you mentioned your scores there, so I guess we're not that far off from our feelings, because I would also give Creed 2 a very, very light 7 out of 10, and then I would give the first Creed just a solid 9. So, and I also think the first Creed is the best film in the Rocky, I guess you could say, franchise, universe, whatever. So, I guess we're sitting the same, we just had different ways of phrasing our feelings towards it, because I also think this one is probably going to have the same issues Creed 2 had, because my issues with that were the story, the plot, it lost a lot of the direction of the first one and what it was building towards, and focused on stuff that wasn't really the focus, I guess. And the boxing was kind of like the second idea of the movie, not the family dynamics or the relationships or what's it like to be a father or whatnot. So I think it'll be really interesting to see what 3 does, if it reverts back to boxing as everything, or is it still family relationships. The trailer makes it seem like the latter, but I'm really excited. It does come out early in the year, so this is not an awards play of any sense like the first Creed kind of was, but it will still be one that will be really fun to finally lay his eyes on it, because I think before COVID it was supposed to be a late 21 movie, and now it's an early 23. So it's finally here, but Matt mentioned it earlier about stuff that's finally here. The start of awards season. We have our first nominations with the Critics' Choice documentary, and we talked about docs before. Matt said we're coming right back to it, so I'll hand it right back over to you. Docs, how do you feel after seeing the first slate of nominations?
Okay, so this is going to be a bit of a deep dive into the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards. So the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards have been around since the year 2016. The first award they ever gave out was to OJ Made in America, which you have mentioned on this episode, bringing it all around. It's a circle, you know it. Anyways, typically the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards goes in a different direction from the Oscars. I think it's matched up twice. It matched up last year with Summer of Soul, and it matched up with OJ Made in America. Otherwise, they've pretty much always chosen something different. They didn't go with Free Solo it was Icarus in 2017, was not even nominated. Free Solo in 2018, they didn't go with that. In 2019, I actually forget. So, what I will say about... actually, I have all the list right here. So, in 2017, they went with Jane, which was not nominated for the Oscar. In 2018, they went with Won't You Be My Neighbor, which was not nominated for the Oscar. In 2019, they went with Apollo 11, which was not nominated for the Oscar. In 2020, they went with Dick Johnson Is Dead, which was not nominated for the Oscar. So, what I will say is that the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards, they go for the front runner. Basically, if you look at those films, those were all the films that on Oscar nominations morning, people, you have like those clips of Oscar expert Brother Bro jumping out of their seats, like screaming that something missed. That's those films. So what we're looking at here right now is these are the front runners. That doesn't mean they're all going to be nominated, but this is a good sign for some of these movies that people are talking about them. So some of the films that we've picked in our leagues, some of the films that have been on our radar as potential contenders for the documentary Oscar, which are in this list are Navalny, which I thought might have been forgotten about, Goodnight Oppie, the robot documentary from National Geographic, Fire of Love, another National Geographic film, but this one with neon. And I think this one's kind of the accepted, like, if something's snubbed, it's probably going to be Fire of Love, which probably means Fire of Love is winning this award. And then Descendant. Those films are all in. But there were some shocking exclusions here, and I'll get into the exclusions too in a little bit, because the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards have quite a history with excluding some of the films that eventually go on to be nominated or even win the Oscar. But this year, it's not a good sign that we're not seeing All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, which seemed like the just hands-down front-runner Venice Golden Lion winner, just one of the most critically acclaimed films of the year, not nominated here. It's nominated in the directing category, but it's not nominated for Best Documentary. The Territory, which is another National Geographic film. That's a film that... where is it? It's in the Best Debut Documentary category. It's not in the Best Documentary category. And All That Breathes, the film that at the beginning of the year we said, oh, there's a chance that this gets an international nomination, which it can't now because it was not selected. And there's a chance it gets both a documentary and that. It could be that film this year. It's not here, as well as Netflix's big Telluride by Senior. Also, not here at all. So really, looking at this, I'm pretty shook up because the top 5 that I had before this for documentary, I only got 2 of those in my documentary top. I only got 2 of those in the entire, because I think there's like 10 nominees in Best Picture Documentary here, and I only got 2, which is bad. That means I need to reshift some things. I need to go through and fix it. Dylan, how did you do? Did you get any better than I did for your predictions?
Nope, I am right there with you, and I even had some different docs in my 5 than you had in yours, because I had Senior in my 5, and I don't know if you had All That Breathes in yours, but I had it in mine. So I missed with both of those, and I missed with All the Beauty and the Bloodshed, because even though I haven't been as high on that movie throughout the whole season, I've seen people say that could get picture. So if it could get picture, it probably should win documentary feature. So I had that at my number 1. I had Descendant at 2. All That Breathes at 3. Navalny at 4. Senior at 5. And I still missed with 3 of them. So I shook up my doc feature lineup a lot. And for the viewers at home, that's falling off his chair.
I'm not
shock.
sitting on a chair.
He's just in shock.
You can tell I'm at a different place than I normally am. And I'm in my childhood bedroom, and there's no chairs, so I'm sitting on like a plastic tub with some of my old clothes in it, and I've just fallen through the lid twice in a row. So this is a disaster, and this is emblematic of how I feel about being the one who, after TIFF, was like, oh, All the Beauty and the Bloodshed. If any documentary could get nominated for Best Picture, it's All the Beauty and the Bloodshed. Well, it would have been at the fucking Critics' Choice Awards. What the hell? I'm going to go through, because I will say, in terms of exclusions, getting 2 out of 5 here, it's not that bad, because most years are shooting 3 out of 5 with the Critics' Choice Documentary Awards. So I'm going to do a bit of a deep dive with every single year and kind of show you what to expect out of this process right here. And, you know, how much should we be reevaluating our documentary category? So in 2021, last year, the Critics' Choice had a 4 out of 5 crossover with the Academy. They had Summer of Soul, Ascension, Attica, and Flee, but they did not nominate Writing with Fire anywhere, not in any other category, which the Critics' Choice Documentary Award has like tons of categories. They have like Best Director, Best Debut, Best Political Documentary, Best Sports Documentary, yada, 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 everything. So Writing with Fire was completely excluded. In 2020, they only got 3 out of 5. They had Crip Camp, My Octopus Teacher, Time, but they did not nominate Collective or The Mole Agent, which were nowhere on their list at all. In 2019, they also got 3 out of 5. They had American Factory, The Cave, Honeyland, but they missed For Sama, which went on to get a director nomination and narration nomination there, as well as The Edge of Democracy, which got a nomination for the narration and Best Political Documentary awards there. So those are the first 2 where the other films that got nominated at the Oscars were still at the Critics' Choice Awards, but just not in the Best Documentary category. Then in 2018, it was 3 out of 5 again. They had Free Solo, Minding the Gap, and RBG, but they missed Hale County This Morning, This Evening, and of Fathers and Sons, both of which did not appear anywhere on the list. 2017, they got 3 out of 5 again. They had Abacus, Small Enough to Jail, Faces Places, Strong Island, but they missed Icarus, which was nominated for Best Sports Documentary and won that category, and Last Men in Aleppo, which was nominated for Best Innovative Documentary. So, again, we're seeing most years, it's 3 out of 5, 3 out of 5, 3 out of 5, and every once in a while, 4 out of 5. Funny enough, the 2 years that have gone 4 out of 5 are 2021 and 2016, which are both years where the eventual winner of the documentary award was actually the winner of the Critics' Choice. Because in 2021, they went with Summer of Soul. 2016, they went with OJ. So, maybe that's emblematic that if we see the winner of this award nominated at the Oscars, that's probably winning. But if it's not nominated there, it doesn't matter.
Well, here's the stat that I took from it. The 2 years that you just mentioned were my 2 favorite docs of all time. So if my new favorite doc of all time does not come out this year, those stats can be thrown out the window. But a more serious angle looking at this is I think you can throw 2021 out the window because, yes, there was 4 out of 5. Summer Soul it broke the trend of the front runner that gets snubbed. And I don't think that's a trend that's going to start to break. I still think that's going to continue going forward. It happened for some years in a row. I disagree, man. You disagree? Let's hear this rebuttal. Let's hear it.
Because so in 2020, Dick Johnson is Dead won. However, I don't believe that at any time that was actually the front runner for the Oscar. I think it was pretty much accepted all along that Dick Johnson is Dead was not an Oscar movie. It was very unique. It was one of the best documentaries of the year. But I don't think, I know I never had it in my Oscar 5, when I was really understanding the landscape of the race. I would actually say Crip Camp was the front runner that everyone thought was going to be snubbed. And the interesting thing that happened that year is because we'd had 3 years of front runners getting snubbed, year after year, you had Jane, Won't You Be My Neighbor, Apollo 11. People were expecting the front runner to get snubbed. And so a lot of people talked themselves so out of Crip Camp being number 1 that basically a lot of people didn't have Crip Camp in their top 5 at all, when really it was that's this archetypal front runner favorite. So when Crip Camp got nominated, I was like, yeah, that trend doesn't need to continue. Just because it happened the past 3 years doesn't mean it's going to continue. And Summer of Soul broke it as well. So yeah, Dick Johnson might have won that award, but I don't think it was the front runner. I think it was just a critically beloved film that really never was an Academy play. The same way that Camera Person was in 2016, which was Kirsten Johnson's previous film, the director of Dick Johnson is Dead. So I disagree. I don't think that it's necessary that the documentary frontrunner gets snubbed this year, whether that be Fire of Love or Descendant, or it's clearly not All the Beauty and the Bloodshed anymore. But yeah, I don't think that that's a thing. And even if it is a thing, I'm not going to try and predict it because, it's inevitably going to be a thing where I'm going to get the wrong front runner that gets snubbed, right? No one expected The Rescue to get snubbed last year, for example. No one expected that. Anyone who was predicting a front runner snub was predicting Summer of Soul. Mm-hmm. So this year, I'm not going to try to say it's going to be Fire of Love. No, it's going to be Goodnight Oppie. No, it's going to be Navalny. No, I'm just going to put them all in because probably they're all going to get in unless the race shifts a little bit, which it will.
It will. No, I definitely see your angle there. I guess I was more looking at what was the quote-unquote frontrunner day of nomination morning, and then that had those years all been snubbed. On top of that, though, the other stat I'm really, happy to see, at least for my team, because Senior did not show up in any category unless I'm mistaken, was all those years of the other nominees just getting no appearances across the board. So that's my one saving grace I'm using, at least for my fantasy team, because I got Senior in both of my leagues, because it's one that I felt it has a lot of buzz. It's got the right people behind it. It's got Netflix. It's got the Robert Downey Jr. This one should be perfect. And so far, it's 0 for 1. I guess we'll see going forward. Was that the right move, taking that over Navalny? Because that was also available. And Navalny's shown up here already. But I think this is a very fun way to start off the award season because as Matt just showed
Yeah.
here, doc is always a interesting category to say the least. It's never one of those
dude, it's
that's
crazy.
easy across the board. The best here was 4 out of 5, and both those years were oddities because the quote definite frontrunner was sweeping it the whole season with OJ, with Summer of Soul, and never looked back, and it made it all the way to the Oscar nomination, unlike Jane, or unlike Apollo 11, or Won't You Be My Neighbor, that ultimately missed at the end of the day. So I think this is really fun to start off the year because, yeah, you could start off the year with, let's say, some random critics group giving Fableman's Best Picture. We already knew that was going to happen. This, we get some shakeup because All the Beauty and the Bloodshed seemed like it was going to run the table this year. If it's getting a golden line, if it's getting a push for Best Picture, it seems like it should easily sweep this category. But I'm kind of happy it's not sweeping, not just because I didn't pick it, but because it makes it more entertaining, it makes it more fun. It's never fun when one movie or one performance or one aspect just sweeps the whole season, even if it's something I love, like I just mentioned. Summer of Soul was one of my favorite docs of all time, so I was really happy to see it win the award at the end of the day. But I was like, I still really liked Flea, I still really liked Attica, Ascension. Maybe it could win somewhere, but so yeah, that's at least how I feel about this category at the moment.
Yeah, it's nice and juicy. It's fun. You know, we love these upsets. And I love that in a category where the Critics' Choice nominate 10 films, they still miss films that get nominated every year. And that makes it so exciting to me because, like, what are those films going to be this year? And I have a couple of ideas, I guess, but, like, it's just interesting to see. And I am curious what happens next. Anyways, you saw, I didn't see it this week, but you saw a film. You gotta let me know, did Evil Die Tonight?
Yes.
Evil Dies Tonight, that's good. Evil
I
Dies.
think a better way to say it is franchise dies tonight. All enthusiasm is gone out the window. Because without getting into overt spoilers, Halloween Ends is a movie. And it has a take.
plot and a camera.
It has a
and actors.
It's a movie, and a movie should be seen in a theater. But it has an idea, and I was down for the idea. I see a lot of people like hate this movie because of the idea it decides to take. That's not why I don't like this movie. It makes that idea, but it does nothing interesting or exciting with that idea. And then it throws that idea out the window. And it's like, oh, wait, we have to do this other movie that we promised. Let's do that for 10 minutes. And then the movie ends. And if they would have stuck with the original idea and finished it out, maybe I would still like it. I really wasn't like enjoying what I was watching. I was like, this is interesting. I like how they're willing to take that risk. If they throw the risk out the window and just revert back to what you think you're getting. And what you think you're getting may be fun, but you feel like you just wasted. Because this movie's not a short movie. It's a 2-hour horror movie, which is a little weird. For a studio to put out a 2-hour horror movie. And so you essentially feel like you wasted 80% of your movie to get to the last 20%, which is what you were kind of promised, but it's still like, yeah, I liked what I got, but it wasn't what we just had to sit through. I don't know. That's not why we're talking about movies this week. We're talking about documentaries this week. They can make a doc about Michael Myers. I'd watch that. But one of the movies that we both watched this week was nominated at the Critics' Choice for Best Documentary, and that was Descendant, which is a film, funny enough, we each have on our team. You have in the Filmball League, and I have, and funny enough, the Latin America League on my squad. So, what did you think about it? Because I think you were a little bit higher than me.
I am. I loved this documentary. I think Descendant is fantastic. I really think that this could be a winning contender for the documentary. And the reason for that is not just because Netflix is behind it, not just because Obama's behind it, but because this is a film for our time. This is a film that reasserts why critical race theory is important, why it is incredibly important not just to look at the present through the lens of what's happening right now, but to look through a lens of every systemic disadvantage that has been thrown into the system. And Descendant does a fantastic job of not just talking about the discovery of the last slave ship off the coast of the United States. It doesn't just talk about that. It doesn't just talk about the descendants of this community in Africa Town. It talks about so much more than that. It's a film about the systemic disadvantages of, for example, companies building chemical runoffs and power plants and just pollution spewers in a predominantly black community. And this is behavior that happens over and over and over everywhere, where companies will move into the spaces which are taken up by people of color. And this happens in Canada. This happens very often with Indigenous communities in Canada. But yeah, it's the thing that I really loved about this film is that it's so multifaceted in showing that it's not as simple as just saying, you know, these are descendants, these are, you know, descendants of people who owned slaves, these are descendants of people who were enslaved. It shows the full scope of a system that has, frankly, really, really fucked over generations and generations worth of people of color and has held up the descendants of these slave owners and slave traders. So, yeah, I thought this was an incredible film. It's a serviceable documentary. I thought it was very well made with great music and very good camera work. But what elevated it to me was the take on this subject matter. I think it just asserts why we need critical race theory to be taught, because it's a lens that's essential to view American history through.
I fully agree with a lot what you said there. I think you said it really good there with it's a serviceable doc with a very interesting take, and it's made very well. I think the crafts too are very good. It's something that I very much appreciate from a documentary when I watch it. How it's edited, how it's paced, how it's shot, how it sounds. Because I get there's limitations when it comes to how you can shoot or how you can interview or whatnot. And I really appreciate when docs put in that extra work to make sure it looks and sounds good, because most of the time, documentaries are made to tell a very important or a very compelling story. And this doc does that and elevates it to a very high level, to me at least. But the thing that I think is most interesting with this movie, when you look at its awards chances, is while you say you could see a winner in here, this to me screams the year-long second-place movie that would win if another movie wasn't there. This, to me, seems just like Flea from last year, just like Time the year before, where if another movie wasn't there, this probably could be the winner because it has all the makings. It's going to be a crowd pleaser, I feel like. This is one I feel like a lot of people could get behind. And it's one that's going to make all of these nominations, like we saw the Critics' Choice. It's going to make all these different committees nominations in their 5 and their 10. But at the end of the day, I don't know how many people are going to put at number 1. Because like you and I have both said, like we both really like it, but we don't think it's like the best documentary. That's at least how I feel about it. I could see this, though, because it does has the narrative with the Obamas backing it, with Netflix being the push, where this could very much elevate. It could be the most seen documentary, depending on how All the Beauty and the Bloodshed goes. So that could very much help its case in the award season run. But for the movie itself, I very much enjoyed it. I think you put everything I could say in much better words. It's one that a lot of people should see. It's one that you should definitely recommend other people to go watch. Very important topics, very well crafted and very well made. It has a very interesting angle, which is what I appreciate most about it as well. Because yes, you could just talk about, oh, it's the last ship, or oh, these are the people, but it merges these 3 different avenues you could tell in the documentary all into one, and I think it does it masterfully. Because yes, this is a nearly 2-hour doc, but it doesn't feel 2 hours. And it's very well paced, which is something I very much appreciate from a documentary. Is its pacing, because there's sometimes when you're getting told so much factual information, you could lose interest. You could be like, I feel like I'm hearing the same thing over and over again, or it's a slog to get through. But I never felt that at one moment with this documentary. This is one I think will go all the way to the Oscars. I just don't see it having that winning angle, at least for now. But like if All the Beauty falls out, if Fire of Love gets snubbed, yeah, this is a clear, I think, number 2, number 3 that's going to make all the nominations. Just how many will it win at the end of the day?
Fair enough. Now, something I'm going to say is this is what our predictions are for at the very end, because I'm going to talk about my documentary predictions later in the episode. But I actually have something that might change your mind as to why this could win. So we'll talk about that later, but I will give you my documentary argument for this as a winner.
Can't wait.
But before then, we have a couple more things to cover. And I think the biggest thing that I want to cover this week is that interviewed Sarah fucking Polley. Holy shit, dude. Oh my god. So I just want to talk about it. You haven't seen Women Talking yet, so I'm not going to spoil anything. Not going to talk in detail about Women Talking. I will just answer a few things that Sarah Polley... I'll talk about a few things that she told me directly. And just talk about her as a person. Because when I say I've met quite a few famous people, or like people in that sort of realm, and I've never met someone of that stature, someone who is that, you know, recognizable as a name, who has made some of my favorite films, who has been so down to earth. Like, she's just someone who is so easy to talk to. Like, it's unbelievable. You know, she got onto the call with me. So, for reference, I'm part of a film festival right now. I'm a programmer at a film festival, and we played Women Talking. But we got the interview with her not because we had Women Talking, but because about 3 months ago, we reached out to her publicist, and we said, we're planning to screen your film Away From Her, which was the film that she got nominated for the Oscars for in 2007, which almost won the Oscar for Best Actress. But anyway, so we reached out, asked for that film, said we'd love to have that film at our festival and have Sarah Polley come and talk about it. And we didn't hear anything from them. Nothing at all. And then on Tuesday, we get an email saying, "Hi there, Sarah has reserved 8:30 on Friday night to have a Zoom Q&A for you guys at your screening of Away From Her." And we're like, okay, we're not screening that film anymore because you never responded to us. So, like, it's not here, but we have Women Talking, and we would love to talk to Sarah. So I get on the call with Sarah on Friday night, and the first thing she says is, "Thank you so much for having me. Like, I so wanted to be there in person. I was planning to be there in person." She was like, "Yeah, my husband teaches in town, and, you know, but this is like the one weekend that he's not there. So it just, like, I couldn't get there, but I was planning on being there, and any other weekend I would have been there. I checked out your program. It looks great. And if you want, just let me know. I'll be there next year." Crazy. And so I'm, like, complimenting her, being like, your documentary, like, changed my entire perception of what documentaries could be. I love your films. They have, like, you know, as a Canadian kid wanting to make movies, seeing someone making an unashamedly Canadian movie that got Oscar recognition, that meant a lot to me. To be like, yeah, this story Away From Her, this movie that was set, like, an hour away from where I grew up, it's not boring. People liked it. Critics liked it. So yeah, I, like, gushed about that a little bit. And then I got into the interview. And her answers are so interesting. So one thing that I asked about the thing that everyone's talking about, the color grade. I did bring it up. I mentioned that people have been talking about it a lot. And I wanted to hear what she said about the desaturated color grading choice and the purpose of that. And it was actually very funny because I asked her that question, and I mentioned that I had my own theory of why I think she did it. And I could see she started smiling when I said that. And I was like, oh no, she's going to ask me what I think. She's going to ask me about why I think she did it. And then she did. She was like, well, I'll answer that. But, like, first, you said that you have a theory. I want to hear what you think. And so I explained my whole theory, and she was basically like, yeah, that's pretty much it. I wanted the film to feel like it was timeless, like it was a memory, like it was a fantasy. And something that she said that was really interesting about Women Talking is that she sees this film as a heightened reality. This is not taking place in, like, the real world. This is taking place in the imagination of a collective. And so what she says is that she doesn't think that this movie would work if the film was colored normally. And she thinks that the color grade that's on the film separates it from reality in a way that makes it feel natural. Because if it was looking natural, then she thinks that, I think she probably tested it, but what she told me was that the whole film would fall apart because people would be picking apart the things that don't feel realistic in it and treating it as though it was meant to be a real film or a realist piece of work, when really it's meant to be a fantasy, it's meant to be a fable. And she also wanted to capture that timeless sense in the story, where this could take place at any point in time. This could be like looking at a faded postcard from the past. And she wanted to evoke that feeling of the past as well. She said that the second that these women decide to have this conversation, the society that they used to live in is already a distant past. Just the act of gathering in this room and discussing what do we do next, where do we go from here, that in itself means that they've already left, that they've already changed the way that things are. And that's why she wants it to look like, the word she told me was a faded postcard. And otherwise, I asked her about working with the actors. She told me she was very intimidated to work with them, and that she took an approach to direction as though it was a documentary. So that's why I've spoken a bit about her doing hundreds of takes of scenes, and I think that's all out of that documentary feel, because she would have the actors do the scene hundreds of times, and each time she would point the camera in a different way. And she would capture different things in the scene, and repetition, and filming it like a documentary, which I found incredibly, incredibly fascinating. And she also talked a lot about how she really wanted to focus on bringing lightness into this story, because it is a story about hope. And despite all the darkness in it, she really wanted to balance all of these feelings. And I watched the film for a second time today. I might see it for a third time tomorrow, actually. But I feel like she succeeded in every way here. And Dylan, I can't wait to hear what you think about this film. Like, it just blew my mind entirely. Again. So, yeah, that's my update on Sarah Polley and the interview. She's so cool. She's so nice. And she might come to the film festival that I work at next year, which would be really cool. Very cool.
That would be super cool. And I hope that I have the same experience that you had watching it. I got about 2 weeks away. In fact, I think I'm just going to buy my ticket to it just to make sure I 100% can get in. Because I have a pass that plan. I can get in, but this is one that's a premium one, so I'm like, I should just buy my ticket just to be safe. So I'm really excited. I think it's 2 weeks from today, so 14 days, almost there.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, and one thing as well that I want to say with watching the film a second time today, I really think Hildur Guðnadóttir has a winning shot for this. Like, the score just makes me so emotional. It evokes so many feelings to me, and God damn, I just hope that Sarah Polley gets a directing nomination for this. Like, it just... We'll talk more about this when you see the film, but, like, holy shit, the work that she did on this film is incredible. And, this watch also cemented to me Claire Foy needs to win. She is so brilliant. She spends the entire film at, like, an 11, basically. She's just doing so much. It's so cool. But anyways, I'll stop gushing about Sarah Polley and Women Talking because we have a little segment today, because I got thinking about second-time winners, because there's a lot of categories at the Oscars where it's really hard to win a second Oscar. There's a lot of categories where no one cares. Like with acting, yeah, you can win as many Oscars as you want. It's, I don't want to say it's not hard, like... But people do it all the time. We even see back-to-back years where people will win 2 Oscars in a row. And we see that in a few other categories, like cinematography. Very recently, Emmanuel Lubezki has won multiple times in a row. In director, Alejandro González Iñárritu has won twice in a row. But there's other categories where the Academy is a bit more picky about awarding people who have already won before. And the first one to talk about here is Best Picture. Of course, I've talked about it all year long. You know my theory. You know that I'm an avid proponent of the theory that we're not going to see a winner from someone who's already been nominated. But to take that even further, we're not going to see a winner from someone who's already won. Or at least it's very unlikely. So, this year, the winners, previous directors who have won Best Picture, who are up again for Best Picture, are Steven Spielberg for The Fabelmans. And of course, Dylan, your boy, James Cameron, Jimothy Cameron himself for Avatar: The Way of Water. Now, I just want to take you through the small club of directors that have won 2 Best Picture awards. So, the first one, and the most recent, is Clint Eastwood, who won in 1992 and in 2004. Before that, you have to go all the way back to the 1980s, when Milos Forman won his second Oscar for Amadeus in 1984. Before that, you have Francis Ford Coppola, who did it in the 70s. Now, the 70s are really where I draw the line of old Hollywood to the modern times. So, in like modern times, Clint Eastwood is the only one to do it. In semi-modern times, Milos Forman and Francis Ford Coppola make 3 directors that have done 2 awards. But now let's get into the oldies, the 60s and before. So we have Robert Wise, who won for West Side Story and The Sound of Music, David Lean, who won for Bridge over the River Kwai and Lawrence of Arabia, Billy Wilder, who won his first one in 1945 and second one in 1960, William Wyler, Vincente Minnelli, Elia Kazan, Fred Zinnemann, and Frank Lloyd. So that is a pretty exclusive club, and most of them are from a time when studio was king. When, you know, the director that was handed a project was like on contract with a studio to make like a bunch of movies a year. This was like before the auteur era. And while I would say that some of these directors I mentioned would be like auteurs in the way that we see nowadays, still, since 1970, only 3 directors have won a second Oscar for Best Picture. Now, would James Cameron and Steven Spielberg fit in that crowd? Yes, absolutely. But, like, you would need to defy all the odds. All the odds. Every odd would need to be defied for this. So, could it happen? Totally. But I'm not convinced. And I'm always throwing shade at James Cameron with I know you're still on the Avatar train here, but after hearing those stats, how do you feel about Fabelman's Avatar?
I mean, I'm still... Fabelman's isn't going to win just because I don't see the package. I still, like I said before, even if I still don't currently believe that Avatar's going to win, I'm keeping that one until I see it to knock it off. I would, at the end of the day, the good old stat of always trust James Cameron. Every time he's tried, he's gotten in for at least a nomination, and I don't know. I just feel like there's part of me that just says maybe it's just director, maybe it's not picture as well, but they're gonna acknowledge how long he spent on this movie and how much of his life and how much he's dedicated to this movie, and I don't feel like it's going to go without some sort of recognition. I personally think it's going to go all the way to picture, but it could just be director. It could literally just be visual effects and cinematography, or just visual effects, but I think it's going to go a little bit higher than just the base level.
Anyways, I'm going to skim over director a little bit, but this year, contending for a second director win or a third one, we have James Cameron, who won for Titanic, Damien Chazelle, who won for La La Land, and Steven Spielberg, who won for Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan. Now, like I said before, it is no hurdle winning a second Oscar for Best Director, and for Spielberg, it's really not a hurdle either to, win a third one here. He's Steven Spielberg. I think he can do it. But interestingly, we have seen in this category Alejandro González Iñárritu. He won back-to-back Oscars. And I will also say something here. Winning in the 90s and having not won an award since the 1990s is a great narrative for Spielberg and James Cameron. So maybe we can see that mobilized. Then in the acting categories, the 2 people with multiple wins that were looking at getting another win would be Cate Blanchett for Tar and Brad Pitt for Babylon. Now, actors win multiple all the time. Blanchett's third win would not be unprecedented. It happened for Frances McDormand recently. But, and I didn't do enough research into this, I'm much more curious about Brad Pitt. Because obviously we've seen actors win multiple Oscars, you know, pretty quickly in succession. So him winning for Hollywood recently shouldn't be a big hurdle. What's more of a hurdle is that the character is very similar. And I'd be curious to see how actors who have won multiple awards, if they win it for different types of characters or not. And I didn't do enough research into that, but I feel like that's going to be a knock to Brad Pitt, that he is playing a very similar category. Now, I'm not even going to talk about screenplay because we don't have anyone who has previously won a screenplay prize who's contending again, because we have a bunch of almost winners, like Tony Kushner, who's almost won an Oscar a bunch of times, or Martin McDonagh, who almost won but was bested by Jordan Peele, or Damien Chazelle, who did not win here for La La Land. But in cinematography, we have 3 people who are contending for another Oscar. We've got Russell Carpenter from Avatar, who won for Titanic. He actually was not the cinematographer on the first Avatar movie, but he is on the second one. Then we also have Linus Sandgren for Babylon, who previously won for La La Land. And, of course, Janusz Kaminski, who won for Schindler's List and Saving Private Ryan. Now, like I said, Emmanuel Lubezki, he won 3 in a row in the cinematography category, so really, this doesn't matter. Anyone can win here. Same with editing. It doesn't matter. People can win multiple times. But one thing I will say is we're looking at Michael Kahn, who is Spielberg's regular editor. He's working on The Fabelmans, obviously, and he's won 3 Oscars. So he's won for Schindler's List, Saving Private Ryan, and Raiders of the Lost Ark. And if he were to win a 4th one this year for The Fabelmans, he would become the most awarded editor of all time at the Oscars. But the next one, here's a big one. This is a big boy right here. Documentary feature. So, by directors, ever in the 80 years that the documentary category has existed, there have only ever been 4 repeat wins by directors in this category. This year we have Laura Poitras, who's up for All the Beauty and the Bloodshed. She won for Citizen 4 in 2014, so 8 years ago. But I'm just going to give you some stats right here. So these are the 4 directors who have won 2 Oscars for Best Documentary. And here's how long it was between their first win and their second win. Arthur Cohn, his first win was 38 years before his second win. Barbara Koppel, her first win was 14 years before her second win. Jacques Cousteau, he had 8 years apart between his 2 wins. And Rob Epstein, 5 years apart between. So that's 4 directors who have won multiple. And the interesting thing here as well is that this category is notorious for snubbing people who have recently won the award. We see that with Michael Moore, who won for Bowling for Columbine and was not nominated for Fahrenheit 9/11. Now, that is because Fahrenheit 9/11 was not eligible because it played on TV, but it's still worth mentioning because Fahrenheit 9/11 is I think it's the biggest documentary in the box office ever, and that film did not, it was disqualified by the documentary branch. Last year, we saw the same thing. Elizabeth Vasarhelyi and Jimmy Chin, who directed Free Solo, they didn't get nominated for their follow-up, The Rescue, which everyone was predicting. And then we also see Morgan Neville, who directed the Oscar winner 20 Feet from Stardom. Last year, he did not get nominated for... not last year, sorry. He didn't get nominated for Won't You Be My Neighbor. He also didn't get nominated last year, but that's besides the point. So we've seen repeatedly that documentary winners have a really hard time of getting back into the category and an even harder time of winning again. So is this going to hit Laura Poitras this year? We'll see. But it's not a good stat for Laura Poitras on this. Okay, these are just a few others. I think documentary is the last one where it's like, wow, that's a hurdle to like win another one. But I'll just go over some cool stats here. So in score, this category is actually super wild. I didn't realize that the record for the most wins in Best Original Score is 9 Oscars. That's a lot. And John Williams is, of course, up again. There's actually quite a few repeat winners up again this year. Hildur Guðnadóttir, Justin Hurwitz, Alexandre Desplat, John Williams. But yeah, so the winner of 9 Oscars is actually the second most winning is John Williams, who has 5. So, like, catch up, John Williams.
Yeah,
what are you doing?
What are you doing?
Come on. Stop screwing around and do some goddamn work.
He can get to 7.
He's not going to win for the next Indiana Jones movie. Are you kidding me?
You never know.
Anyways, for song, I'm not going to talk about this too much, but something that I actually think is very interesting, and I looked through all of the song winners, the only time that a pop star has won twice is Elton John, who won for The Lion King and won for Rocket Man. There have been many other repeat winners, but they're like people who write like the show tunes and stuff. Like, you know, the guy who did Frozen or whatever has won multiple. But the only time that a pop singer has won is Elton John, which means, is that a disadvantage for Lady Gaga, who's going up for her second this year, or for Billie Eilish, who's going up for her second, which she won her first last year. But the other repeat guy here is the, I feel awful, I didn't write his name down, I just wrote Judas guy on my sheet right here. But the guy who won for the Fight For You from Judas and the Black Messiah, he is up again for Till. So maybe that's a better chance at a repeat win than Lady Gaga, because Lady Gaga is defying the odds by being a pop star in this category. Now, everything else here is anyone's game. Costumes, production design, sound, makeup, VFX, all of them, it's anyone's game. So really, you know, we do have some repeat nominees, like with Elvis. We've got a previous winner in both costumes and production design, Catherine Martin. We've talked about her. She's a legend. Black Panther, we have repeat winner for costumes. And, of course, in production design, we've got people who, you know... actually, here's an interesting thing. The production designer of the first Avatar movie, who won for Avatar, he is up again this year, but not for Avatar 2, for The Fabelmans, which is very interesting. But anyways, all of those, it's anyone's game. Really, the 2 categories here where having a previous Oscar is going to hurt you is Best Picture and it's Best Documentary. So that's my deep dive for the week. And Dyl, any big takeaways there for you? Anything that you were surprised to hear?
Maybe not surprised to hear, but the one that I think is the most interesting is what you talked about with the pop stars and Elton John being the only one to win twice, because his 2 wins I think are very interesting wins, because one is for a Disney movie and the other one's for a movie about himself, and that movie was not anywhere else, and that was a way to award Elton John for legacy for Rocket Man. And obviously, Lady Gaga doesn't have that this year. You could make a case maybe Star is Born was her, Rocket Man was her force of acting, even though Elton John wasn't in Rocket Man, but her force of acting while also singing, sort of thing. But I think that very much shows, hey, Maverick may not have that extra award everyone's thinking, because everyone has it for song, it has it for editing, sound, and then other ones too. And I'm like, well, maybe it's not winning this. That brings its haul down just a little bit. I still think it's not like she's getting nominated for the song. But
oh, yeah,
you know
totally.
What would be crazy? If they nominated the One Republic song that plays when they're having the football game on the beach instead of this one.
Oscar nominees, One Republic. Yeah.
But, yes, that's the one that stood out the most to me, just because his 2 wins are for very much not like Oscar songs. It was for, I mean, I guess you can make a case for the Lion King one because it's like an animated musical, but the other one's for just him and Taron Egerton just singing for the credits of a movie about himself. But the Brad Pitt one's one I've been singing the tune to all season. He's not winning for this. He could get nominated for Coattail for Babylon. but the trailer just looks like he's playing DiCaprio's character from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, and the more fun parts of his character in that movie as well. So like, I don't know, that just seems to me like he's getting in because of his name and the movie as a whole, not because he's doing anything like super special and nowhere near the winning contingent, putting aside all the extra stuff as well.
Okay, I have actually a Brad Pitt thing to talk about very quickly, which is that today at the Women Talking Q&A that we did, which was not with Sarah Polley, it was with, like, this question probably would not have flown with Sarah Polley because she probably just would not have been able to answer it. But in Q&A, which we did with one of the actors from the movie, someone in the audience was like, I was looking through the credits and I noticed a very shocking name, which is that Brad Pitt produced this movie. How do you feel about, you know, being part of a movie like this, dealing with this subject matter and having that name on it? So people are talking about Brad Pitt's allegations. People are talking, I will say the actor kind of like expertly skirted around the question a little bit and was like, oh, I never got to meet Brad Pitt, but Dee Dee Gardner was the driving force behind the film. It was Dee Dee Gardner the whole time. Dee Dee Gardner, Dee Dee Gardner, Dee Dee Gardner. And yeah, but it's an interesting thing to see because that was just a random person at this film festival who brought it up. It's going to be brought up. It's going to come back. I keep hearing people say it's not going to be a big deal. It is a big deal. It's going to be a big deal. People are going to talk about it.
I think it'll be very interesting because yes, he's Brad Pitt, but at the same time, the movies that he produced this year kind of correlate with what is being talked about with him, with She Said, with Women Talking. So, like you said, I think it will at the end of the day. I've never had him as my one. I know I've mentioned before, like when he first moved to support, like, oh, maybe as a shot to be like number 2, number 3 here, but I don't know. We'll see once we get the nominations. Babylon is a movie I don't have as high as a lot of other people in a lot of categories, not just Brad Pitt related, just the movie as a whole. But do you have anything else you want to dive into if you're a deep dive before we dive into our weekly prediction segment?
No, absolutely. I think this is a great segue because I'm looking at your predictions for SAG Ensemble right now, and I'm gonna yell. This is ludicrous, Dylan.
2 straight weeks.
Ludicrous shit,
2 straight weeks of blowing your mind because I hinted to it before. Babylon's not in my ensemble because maybe Matt will not predict the movie that misses documentary, but I will predict the ensemble that misses best ensemble because every year there's always one of them. And it's usually the ensemble that does not have a full 4 quadrant. And Babylon is a 3. And one of those 3 is in the gutter right now, and the other one of the 3 is not a huge name, and Babylon just screams screener issues. It's not making the 5.
What I'm gonna say though is looking at your list, I can see Babylon missing. I can see Babylon. It deserves to be higher, but I can see it missing because you're right. Screener issues are probably going to impact it. I'm not so upset about what you left out. I'm more upset about what you have in. But do me a favor because I'm gonna yell when you get to the end of your top 5. So I'm gonna can you go from 1 down and so that like I can end the top 5 with oh my god my chair again.
Yeah, just break the chair.
It would have been really impactful if that happened when you got to your number 5 and I went, what the fuck are you talking about?
Well,
so let's go from number 1 down and so that I can yell at you.
I think it's 1A, 1B, like I said, for some other categories throughout the year. I think Women Talking Everything Ever All at Once is a 1A, 1B. Currently, I have Women Talking winning, but I think this could be a coda situation. Once people see the cast throughout the awards season, doing Q&As, doing the meet and greets, Everything Ever All at Once has the avenue for SAG Ensemble winner. I just want to see it get nominated, which will be the case for another movie we'll get to later. I just want to see it happen before I full commit. Because Women Talking is a movie I have no doubts it will get nominated. It will be there. Everything Ever All at Once, I see an avenue where it misses. But I don't think that will happen. Personally, I see where it could because A24 is A24 and they do dumb stuff all the time. And they may just be like, oh, we don't have to focus on this. Everyone talks about this movie and they put no effort into it. So that's my 1A, 1B. Fabelmans is number 3. I think this is the other alternative possible snub for like the movie that makes complete sense to make it that misses. But I think Babylon fits that criteria a little bit more because of its release date, because of its just group of actors that are going to be listed in the SAG list. That's one that just feels like it could miss. What's number 4, which I think is one that will make Matt a little confused a little bit, like, what are you doing? As I have Glass Onion at 4, and that's not... Yes, the first one missed, but this is Netflix. Netflix doesn't really have much else to push. This is one that's going to be widely seen. Yes, the first Glass Onion was widely seen, but this is another... It's just going to be widely seen across the board. It's going to be, if Everything Ever All at Once aside, the only real comedy here. We usually get a comedic film in the bunch, a populist film, and while I have 2 of them here, but I haven't got to one of them yet, this just one just seems like there's a goodwill for a lot of people in the cast. If they can't nominate, let's say, Janelle Monáe, or they can't nominate Daniel Craig, why not just give the whole cast an award? But I know I'm missing a clear one, but I have a case for that once we get there. But my number 5, which will shock Matt, I don't know if it'll shock a lot of other people, but this one just feels right. It's Top Gun Maverick. Tom Cruise.
No!
Yes, Maverick to the Ensemble Awards. Everyone get your plane wings out. We're coasting in.
No.
This is the Ana de Armas and Golden Globe drama for 2 weeks in a row.
Oh. Okay,
Yes.
I'll let you finish your 10. I just wanted to be able to groan like that at this point, but like, no.
Yes.
No.
Maverick is coming for the Ensemble.
I stayed low in my chair here so that I didn't have to fall again during that because...
All right.
No.
Yes.
No. Okay,
Babylon is
continue,
6.
and then I'll give my counterpoint.
Babylon is 6. It's the one that, yeah, I probably shouldn't predict the miss, the one that just gets out, but it's the one that I'm just going to say, hey, I think this probably should be in, but it's going to be out. Like Mank, because I predicted the Mank one. Was Power to the Dog the miss last year?
Good question. I don't remember.
I think it was Power of the Dog. I had that one missing last year. I don't remember.
West Side Story. West Side Story was
West Side
was a
Story.
big miss.
Screener issues. There we go too. And then Babylon at 6. I have number 7 being Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. This one could also interchange with Maverick. Number 8's the one I know most people probably have in their 5. My issue with it is I need to see what this movie does because it came out so early, and that is The Woman King. This one should be the 5. This isn't my personal 5. It's my number 2 ensemble of the year from everything I've seen personally. But I just need to see this movie get something first. Because, yes, everyone's talking about how much they love it at the moment, but how much of that is just talk, and how much is it's going to be backed up throughout the season? Because I could see this going from anywhere being a Best Picture number 8 to being a film that gets 0 nominations across the board at every award show. Number 9 is Banshees, and number 10 is Triangle of Sadness. I don't see Triangle of Sadness having a shot at anything, but I just have it at 10 because there's an avenue, and Banshees is one I feel like could come up as the movie goes along because it has a chance to get 4 acting nominations at the Oscars. 1 in every category. Or not every category, but 1 in actor, 1 in supporting actress, and 2 in supporting actor. And it's one that it has a big 4. It doesn't have a deep ensemble, but it has a big 4. And usually SAG just kind of looks for the big 4.
Right. Well, you know, Triangle of Sadness apparently had a really good reaction at their SAG screening, so I don't think you're entirely wrong having that in here. Okay, I'm going to go through my points here, and then I'm going to, like, yell at you about Top Gun. I do think Women King is too low, because the thing about Women King is... So the Globes the SAG always nominates something that's, like, mildly forgotten about or was, like, a little bit too early. And I don't know, I think The Woman King, like, fits the profile of something that SAG just goes head over heels for and other people might not be as crazy about. But it's populist. We know it has a large reach. We know SAG loves Viola Davis. It's an action movie that also has some great acting. I feel like it's in. I feel like it's at least higher than Black Panther. Yeah, you already took on the, you know, is Glass Onion in when Knives Out wasn't? I do believe Babylon deserves higher. I actually, after watching Women Talking again today, despite the ensemble being brilliant, I actually do think that Everything Everywhere All at Once wins, just because it's so light and it's fun. And like you said, when the ensemble gets out there, they're so likable. Whereas, like, Women Talking is a very serious film, and when the ensemble gets out there, it's going to be very serious. And I don't know, I think that it's going to be easier to award the cast of Everything Ever All at Once than Women Talking. So I would put that at number 1, but they're like neck and neck. Now, Top Gun. For our audio listeners out there, I'm giving a look of disappointment right now because, like, okay, I see no argument for this in the top 5. Like, there's barely an argument for Tom Cruise getting into actor, which I do have him in, and the argument is that actor's weak as hell this year. But, like, who else is in the ensemble that, like, did anything? Like, that film it's a stunt movie. It's gonna win stunts, for sure, at the SAG, but, like, there's nothing about this movie that feels like, yeah, this is an ensemble that's, like, worth talking about. Like, who did more heavy lifting in this movie? Miles Teller or his mustache? And the answer is his fucking mustache.
See,
like, it's just blank slates of people in this film, I think.
Well, I don't think Maverick should be nominated, but you mentioned before the quote-unquote forgotten about early movie of the year. Maverick fits that because it's not the forgotten, but it's the early movie of the year. It's the populist choice of the year. Crazy Rich Asians made it in with no Oscar potential in any acting category. Maverick can, off of everyone, I say everyone in quotations, but most people really loving this movie, really having a fun time with it. Yes, do I have the same argument for Glass Onion? I do, but at the end of the day, I think Glass Onion, Maverick, Wakanda, Woman King, and Babylon are fighting for those last 2 spots. It's just which combo are they taking? And I right now have Maverick and Glass Onion. Is that the smart picks? Maybe not so much for Maverick, but I don't know. I just feel this movie is getting Tom Cruise is in. I don't care what anyone says. I've had Tom Cruise, and if I go to my little Oscar sheet that we started, he's been in my top 10 since we started this back in late May, early June, and he was at like number 6 months ago, and just like I finally put him in the other week when we talked about on the show here, and I don't know. If this movie's taken off the way that we've all thought it's been for a while, he's obviously coming around for the ride, and more stuff doesn't have to come around for the ride throughout the season, and I just don't see where this populist, lovable cast doesn't make it any. Because yes, maybe there's not really much working with here, but it just feels like a SAG ensemble because you have just, I don't know. I don't really have a great argument. It's just a gut feeling I have here. Because
okay. Sorry, finish your point. I just have like a stinger to end with.
Just because I just don't know what type of push Woman King's getting. Because, yes, they do love Viola Davis, but this just has such a weird release date, and Sony has other stuff to worry about. While, on the other hand, maybe not for Ensemble, just overall. And while Paramount sure has Babylon's a movie that's coming out very late. It's going to have issues being seen. Maverick may just be a placeholder for a lot of people, but at the end of the day, it's one they're going to keep in their 5. But go ahead and lay the stinger in before we get to your documentary, and you can tell me why Descendant's winning.
If SAG nominates Top Gun Maverick, and it's 30 blank slate white boys with their mustaches over Black Panther and the Woman King, they're going to get a shitstorm, and they're going to deserve it.
Yeah,
that's all I'm gonna say. But I'll take it over to best documentary. So, I'll quickly go through my top 10, but I'm gonna stop at number 4 when I get there because I have a winning argument for everything in my top 4, and that's what I want to focus on this week. So, this week I've restructured a little bit. I shifted everything around, and despite clearly, as I said early in the episode, Critics' Choice always lining up 3 out of 5. I went 4 out of 5 this time. Just to, we'll see how things go as the season goes on, but I'm going 4 out of 5 for now. So, starting at number 10, I've got Riotsville, USA. Number 9, I'm bringing Moon Age Daydream far up in mine because it got nominated for a bunch of those Critics' Choice Award documentaries, which is like, not something I expected because it doesn't feel like a documentary to me. Number 8, I have Aftershock. Number 7, I have All That Breathes. Number 6, I have The Territory. At number 5, I'm bringing Navalny back up. I've been saying all year long, I think it's going to be forgotten. But we're back. It's here. And actually, you know what? I said I was going to give my top 4's winning arguments. I'll start with 5. Navalny. If Navalny gets in, to the Oscars, if it's not forgotten about, this is a film that I know through the year I've been like, oh, I wonder if the war in Ukraine is going to be as pressing a topic, if Putin is going to be as pressing a topic at the time of the Oscars next year. You know, people might be over-predicting Navalny because currently it's a major event, but it's clear that the war in Ukraine is not going anywhere, that Putin is still in power and is still wreaking chaos. So, could Navalny win off of the politics of that? It could. That's possible. There have been winners like that in the past. For example, Icarus in 2017, that was a political winner because, for one thing, we're talking about the Olympics at the moment. We're also talking about Russian meddling in different things. And that was a point in time where not only were the Olympics on, and so it was a very present topic, but it also won because we were talking a lot about Russian meddling in the US election. So, Navalny, that's its path to a win. Number 4, Goodnight Oppie. Goodnight Oppie just got a bunch of Critics' Choice nominations. This is a sweet, happy film. It's lovable. It's full of just like, you know, I've heard people describe it as My Octopus Teacher with a robot. And that's how it feels. And ultimately, if this gets nominated, could this win through a similar path that My Octopus Teacher had? Which is, I don't want to talk about politics. I don't want to talk about anything. I just want to watch a cute goddamn robot do shit. So, that's its path to a win. My Octopus Teacher is the example of another film that was very just like, this is what the movie is. Number 3, I have Fire of Love. Now, this to me feels like the typical movie that gets snubbed. This feels like the archetypal Won't You Be My Neighbor, Jane, Apollo 11, Fire of Love feels like that. But its winning potential is that if it does get nominated, it's likely to win the Critics' Choice Documentary Award. It's likely to win a lot of other critic awards. This is one of the most popular documentaries of the year. It's one of the most acclaimed documentaries of the year. And it is just like Goodnight Oppie. It's lighthearted. It's lovable. And the footage is pretty incredible. I don't have a comparison off the top of my head for this one, but that is its winning path, is that it's going to have so many critic awards. At number 2, dropping down from first place, is All the Beauty and the Bloodshed. Now, I have already talked about All the Beauty and the Bloodshed a ton on here, and, you know, I'm dropping it down from 2 because it didn't get that picture nomination at the Critics' Choice Awards. This is also going to be one of the most critically acclaimed films of the year, despite not making the Critics' Choice. Super weird. Very weird exclusion there. But with this, its path to the win is not just the political relevance of it, but it's also just that this is a film that filmmakers are going to connect with. Could this be snubbed entirely because Laura Poitras already has an Oscar, though? Totally. Now, Descendant. Descendant, to me, feels like the type of film that is, like I said with Navalny, a political move as a winner. We are in a midterms year. You know, the U.S. will be voting. And I hate to say it, but it's very likely that the results of the vote that we're going to see this year are going to tip towards the Republican Party. It's very likely that the Democrats are going to lose the House. So there are stats that actually show in election years where voters lean towards. And something that happens time and time again is that if there's a change in power, oftentimes the film that wins is a little bit more heavy, a little bit more political. Like, for example, in 2016... Moonlight, a lot of people just say is like a better film than La La Land. I think they're equally brilliant, but I would attribute a large part of Moonlight winning the Oscar there to the fact that people weren't feeling like giving a lighthearted comedy the Oscar, like La La Land. That wasn't in people's mind because you have a transition of power. People weren't happy, and Donald Trump was taking office. So, if we see the predicted loss of the House by the Democrats in the United States, it seems likely to me that voters will go, this is a film that's important right now. We need to be talking about civil rights. We need to be talking about Black history. We need to be talking about critical race theory. We need to be talking about this. And that is my argument for Descendant in number 1. Because if thinking ahead, predicting what might happen with the midterms, Descendant would be what they go towards if that happens.
I like your argument there. I think you make a great case for the top 5 as well. I know I've been a lot higher on Navalny throughout the year than you have. This is one I think is almost a lock for a nomination. I don't think it's winning anything, but I think basically what I described about Descendant earlier is even more so true for Navalny. I think you make a great point for Descendant's winning case. You mentioned Fire Love, even a comparison. I think you don't have to look far for its comparison. Look to last year, to Summer of Soul, the one that wins all the awards at the beginning that people think could miss, but it actually gets in, and it's a very likable, very well seen, very easygoing watch, so why not? But I think you make a great point for the opposite of Fire Love's. Fire Love is like the not the safe, but like the happy type pick. Like we like this is fun, this is easily recommendable. And then you have the opposite of, well, this one's a lot tougher review, but is also one that a lot of people should see, has an important message. And take your pick, and then you throw all the beauty and the bloodshed in the middle. It's like, hey, I'm here, I'm very well regarded. Yeah, I'm artsy though. Yeah, and you have
your comparison's perfect, man. Fire of Love is totally Summer of Soul. Totally Summer of Soul.
Sadly, though, we move from documentary to my best picture, and I don't have a doc in my top 25 for best picture, but I do have an animated movie. Pinocchio is on the rise to number 19. And everyone out there can't see my total rankings out there, but I have some movies below it that people would be like, why is that below Pinocchio? I have Triangle of Sadness below Pinocchio. I have Decision to Leave below Pinocchio, and I have RRR below Pinocchio. But they're all in my top 25, so that's a positive outlook there. But if we look at stuff that's above Pinocchio, at number 18 is Wakanda Forever, 17 is The Whale. Everyone yell at me now. How Matt's reacted to some of my rankings these last 2 weeks. Everyone out there is doing that right now with me having The Whale at 17. I don't have Brendan Fraser winning actor. That's my case. I fully get if you have him winning actor, you have the movie in your 10. I don't have him winning, and if he's not winning, this movie's not making Best Picture. So that moves us to number 15 and 16, which once you hear them, you'll be like, why are they above The Whale? But we talked the last 2 weeks, and even when I was not on here, you and Arno talked about how these two movies have their fans, and their fans are still a large margin of the Academy's voter base, and that is The Sun and Empire of Light. They have a package to get themselves in the picture because they both can still get an actor or actress, they both can still get screenplay, and they both could still get to picture. Do I think it will happen? No, but I think they have a lot better shot than movies below. Make the case for The Whale. Argue with a wall. I'm not moving away from Austin Butler until he loses awards. Then you get to the real ones, I think. There's 14 movies. You can say 15 with The Whale, but 14 movies that are arguing for Best Picture right now. And the ones I have missing are All Quiet on the Western Front, The Woman King, Glass Onion, and Tar. Those are my first 4 out in reverse order. Tar is my first movie out of Best Picture. I think it could easily be flipped with She Said. I'm just keeping She Said in there at the moment, but I see Tar next week, hopefully, and then I see She Said the week after, so I'll be able to actually give more input than just what I'm hearing from other people. But I am going to rock with my guns of saying Tar is too inaccessible to a wide audience, for that's why I have it out. But I fully get the case. It's holding true to its critic score and whatnot. It's opening wide and doing well financially and limited release. Just I want to see what this movie does once it hits wider release, of how it fares with a more mainstream audience, because yes, it's still limited, but it's making money. But the fact that it's limited, the people who are going to see it are the people who want to see it, the people who are wanting to enjoy it, and the people that the more I don't want to say common, but the more mainstream audience, they'll see this movie, and from what it sounds like, they'll still be
the
like
plebes.
Yeah, they'll be like, what am I watching? Why are people saying this is like the greatest thing of all time? And then the Tar buzz will slightly lower. It will still stay high with critics, but the audience score will go down. That brings us to top 10. She Said, like I said, it's number 10. Yell at Me Some More, Bardo, number 9. This movie's going to have a resurgence. I called it even before the edit, and it's already seen it with the edited cut. People are saying this one's better, it paces better, it flows better. This one's better overall. Netflix has still shown they don't want to move away from Bardo, A Glass Onion, even if Pinocchio is screaming at them with a 93 or All Quiet's screaming at them with a huge rave from TIFF. They're still sticking to Bardo and Glass Onion. We are pushing these two, and of those two, Bardo has the better package overall. I mean, if Glass Onion does get SAG Ensemble, like I said before, that's a better chance for it to get in the picture, but Bardo, I still think could get into director, even though people really don't want that to happen. It has a shot with how weak actor is. Cacho could still get in if that category is that weak to have Tom Cruise get in. And because if you look at Best Actor, we're not today, but I think there's only like 7 or 8 names you can make a real case to get in. And I think Cacho is one of those 8. I think he's at 8, but I don't think he's in the 5. But he has a shot. And Bardo is just a movie I feel like will, at the end of the day, get in. And that will be this year's pick of like, everyone's like, why is this movie in picture? It shouldn't be here. Every year there's one of those, and guess what? I have 2 of them, because at number 8 is my Best Actor winner, Elvis. It's at number 8. That's as high as I want to put it, but I think top 7's the closest you can get to a lock, because no one's seen number 7, but the top 7 feel very safe to me, and number 7's Babylon. I know a lot of people have this at 2, a lot of people have this at 3, some people even have this winning. Damien Chazelle's not winning yet. I don't think he's winning for this. I don't see this movie's case to win picture, but I see this movie's case to be Mank or to be The Irishman. Get a bunch of nominations, don't win much. Number 6 is a movie, though, that a lot of people love. It's got that high critic score. It's opening this week, and a lot more people are getting to see it. And like I said before, I think this movie could get 3 or 4 acting nominations, including a screenplay, and maybe even a case for director if that movie really picks up steam, and that's The Banshees of Inisherin. It's number 6 for me. A lot of people may even have in the top 5, because my number 5 is Maverick. I think in a field of 5, this movie still makes picture, and this movie's picking up buzz. While it may lose the Lady Gaga win, it's picking up a Tom Cruise nomination and actor. I've had this in my top 8 all season long since we started this show all the way back 19 weeks ago, and it keeps rising up for me. I don't see it getting much higher than 5, because I don't think it has a chance to win Best Picture. Well, the top 4, I think all have a real shot. At the moment, I see 4 movies that could win Best Picture. Some people may say there's only 2. Some people may say there's only 1. Some people may say there's 10. I think there's 4. And it's The Fabelmans, Everything Ever All at Once, Women Talking, and Avatar: The Way of Water. Pick your order the way you want them to. I think there's a case for all of them. Fabelmans, obviously, it's the front runner right now. Steven Spielberg. This is his movie. It's about him. Let's reward him. Everything Ever All at Once is the people's champion. Everyone loves this movie. It's got the hype. It's got the support. Just does it have the push from A24, and can it withstand the thoughts from an older demographic? I know people myself that love this movie that fit into that demographic, but how does the Academy members feel about this movie that includes butt plugs and just random stuff off the wall? Women Talking, as we mentioned, has a 2-time winning producer, it fits all the criteria that Matt said that a Best Picture winner has to have. And this is probably winning screenplay. This is probably winning supporting actress. That's 2 above the line wins with a possible director nomination, another supporting actress, another supporting actor, maybe a score win. But I gotta stick true. I can't be Dylan without having a wild number 1 this far out, and it's The Way of Water. Like I mentioned before during the James Cameron little thing, can't doubt James Cameron. He spent a lot of time on this movie. Maybe it's not winning, but I sure want it to win. And until I see it, I would not feel good without having it at 1, because there's been years in the past where I'm like, I want this movie to win, or I want this performance to win, but I don't think it will, so I'm not putting it at 1, and it goes on to win. So now that I have a platform to be like, well, I can say blah, blah, blah. I want to be different. I've been different for 19 weeks. There's no reason for me to jump off the train now without seeing it. Because yes, obviously Everything Ever All at Once or Women Talking should be my number 1. But what's the fun of you don't have something different? Because like when Matt first picked Everything Ever All at Once, that was a fun answer. Not many people had that. A lot of people have it now. But I still want to be different. Like I said, Women Talking probably realistically my actual number 1, but Avatar is what I want to publicly say. This is what I have. This is what my odds are at. Let me cash out big if this was like a betting site sort of thing. So my picture lineup, I think, has a nice variance of populist and critical darlings. In fact, I've been gunning for this all season long. I still hold true to it today, that this would be the most populist Best Picture nominee lineup in history. With my lineup right here, you have Avatar, you have Everything Everywhere, Maverick, Elvis, and maybe Babylon are 5 movies that could potentially get over $100 million internationally at the box office, which would be the highest grossing Best Picture lineup of all time. And, I mean, it might be that with just Maverick and Way of Water. But then you add in all the other ones too, and you have yourselves a very eye-catching, eye-popping lineup. Does the Academy actually think that? Probably not, but they might, and this would be very good for people's engagement with the show because there's movies that people know, because they'll know those 5, and they'll know the Fabelmans because Steven Spielberg and Women Talking's got a lot of online buzz right now, and She Said we'll probably have that when it comes out as well, and I just think this is a very interesting 10. I get the cases for Tar, I get the case for Woman King, I get the case for All Quiet, for Glass Onion. This is just how I feel at the moment. If Austin Butler's not winning actor, switch out Elvis for The Whale, and if Bardo does not have that resurge of love for it, put in Glass Onion, and then if She Said doesn't catch on, or Tar just is actually that movie, Tar goes in, and I think that matches my Best Picture 10 to everyone else's Best Picture 10. But like I said, I want to be a little bit different. I have more confidence in the movies I have in my 10. I've rambled for long enough. I'll open the floor from that to freak out some more, or for everyone at home to be like, "What are you doing, Dylan? You're stupid. Why are you on this show? You're dumb." I'll say I was pretty good on Gold
People
Derby
type
last
in their
year.
comments right now.
Exactly.
What are you doing, Dylan? Why are you on this show?
Get off of here. I'll be that guy, and I'll be like, I was like number 65 on Gold Derby last year. Give me credit. Wah.
Okay, I'm not gonna say much on yours because, I'll put some things out there, I guess. After seeing Women Talking a second time, I am a little bit concerned about a couple of things that I think are going to hurt it, which is the color grade. I think a lot of people are not going to stop talking about it. It is going to hurt the film's chances. And also passion. Like, this is a film I feel very passionate about, but I start to see the route of, like, Power of the Dog, where, like, how many Oscar voters are going to be out there being like, oh yeah, this is fucking awesome. Mm-hmm. Right? Like, I think everyone's going to like it, but it might struggle to find people who just champion it all season long. I have a feeling this is going to be the one that, like, you're looking at the anonymous voters when those reports come out, and people are going to be like, I didn't get the hype around Women Talking. They should just shut the fuck up, or something like that. You know, I see that happening. And it's going to be really disappointing because this is a truly great film. But I can see a world where people are like, I don't get it. I don't get the hype. Mm-hmm. So otherwise, I guess I'll just nitpick. I mean, if you're talking about a populist Best Picture lineup, you got to get Bardo out of there. But at the same time, I don't know. I'm torn on Bardo because I'm like, I can see how it happens, but I also can see how it comes nowhere near. I do think Tar is missing from your lineup, even though I don't really like Tar. And I want to see you crank those Pinocchio numbers up, my dude. I want to see you get Pinocchio up in there.
Well, Pinocchio went from 24 to 19.
It needs to go from 19 to 9, man. It's got a 93 on Metacritic. It is going to be one of the most acclaimed movies of the year. It's going to be widely accessible. Hopefully it doesn't flop on Netflix. Oh my god, I hope it doesn't flop on Netflix. But yeah, I think it's going to be very special. I think it should be a little bit closer. At the very least, it should be over Black Panther, Empire of Light, The Sun, maybe The Whale. It should be over those. That's what I'd say.
Well, I can probably say in 2 weeks, I will probably have Pinocchio over The Sun and Empire of Light. I would like to see those to be like, hey, can I see the angle and go from there? Because, yes, I hear the comments out there. I hear why The Sun, why Empire of Light. No one likes those movies. I get it. People our age hate those movies. But people our age still aren't the majority of the Academy, and it's still proven year in and year out. They're going to pick their movies. And yeah, you can say the boomer movie is The Fabelmans. It's Banshees. It's Maverick.
It's Top Gun.
It's Maverick even.
Top Gun is the boomer movie.
I would say Elvis could be the boomer movie, but I still think there's an avenue for them. And while I don't personally think they're in, I have them higher than other movies that maybe in an actual ranking at the end of the day will be higher. Like, I think at the end of the day, like, if the Academy would release, hey, here's our 1 through 25 of what all our tallies went up to in standings. I don't think The Sun and Empire Light are at 15, 16, But I can see the avenue for them getting in over a Triangle of Sadness, getting in over a Till. Oh, Wakanda Forever. I Want to Dance with Somebody. They have the better avenue there because they still have a package, and that's why I do have Bardo in over Glass Onion, over All Quiet, all over Pinocchio. Is because I see the package there, and yes, it's probably not the smart move. Pinocchio's got the buzz. All Quiet had the huge tip reviews. Glass Onion is the buzz movie that Netflix has, but at the end of the day, Glass Onion maxes out at 3 nominations probably. All Quiet and Bardo are fighting for the same stuff. And Pinocchio just has the animation, which shouldn't be a problem. But the Academy constantly shows it is a problem. And I would love for them to see they break it this year. I mean, we did a whole episode back in June why Pinocchio could be that movie to break the pattern. But Bardo just, to me, has a chance for 2 above the lines with, or maybe even 3 above the lines with some text, and I still have that number 1 for international. People who are in the industry love it, and yes, I hear everyone out there being like, Bardo sucks. This film critic told me Bardo sucks when they saw it at Venice. This one said it sucked at Telluride. But guess what? People who actually can vote have publicly said they love this movie, and I'm gonna take the word of the people who can actually vote than the people who predict the voters, I guess. And that goes with us as well, because there's been movies in the past I'm like, I don't like this movie, so I'm not going to predict it, and it's still going to get in anyway. And I just want to be ahead of the curve for the Bardo resurgence, and that's not bias at all because I have Bardo, but I picked 4th overall over the Fablemans in this draft. Definitely not any bias there.
Doubt. Actually, so I think that there's something actually very interesting. I don't think Bardo has a chance in hell at winning international feature, because I think that largely, if it gets into picture, it would be on the back of a few people who are really passionate about it. But I don't think it's going to be widely liked enough to win international feature, even if it gets into Best Picture. That's my controversial take on this, because I could see it get into Best Picture and still lose international film, and it'd be the first time that happens. But before we leave, I just want to say, I forgot to mention, I saw Close this week. And I'm convinced that Close is winning international feature now. Very convinced. It feels like a winner to me. It feels like it doesn't feel, I think we've gotten used to a type of international winner that is like an above the line contender in every category, because we've been spoiled. Like 2018 Roma, 2019 Parasite, 2020 Another Round, 2021 Drive My Car, all of which contended outside of the international feature category. But this year, I think we could go back to the very simple winners of the past. Like, if you go back to 2017, we had A Fantastic Woman. 2016, we had The Salesman. Those movies are not ones that were contenders in any other category. And I think that Close fits that bill to me. And, like, it's not a contender anywhere else, but it feels like something that could win this category.
100%. We could dive more into that next week, because I should hopefully see another Best International contender, one that a lot of people are saying, no, this is the one that's going to get Best Director and maybe a screenplay and maybe an actor. No. Decision to Leave should open up in my area, and all the T's. I mentioned a few months ago it was the month of the B, or the month of the B was August. Well, the month of October has been the T, because you got Tar, you got Triangle of Sadness, and you got Till. I'll 100% be able to see Till. I have a press screening in Richmond on Wednesday, but hopefully Tar opens on Thursday, so I can do 3 days of Till, Tar, Triangle of Sadness, and hit the quadrants of art house, Oscar bait, and international comedy, and be able to deliver some more conversation, because Matt's already seen most of those movies and has just, I'm sure, been waiting to talk about his love of Tar here on the show.
Oh yeah, I love it. So next week should be a very packed episode. It's going to be quite crazy. But until then, my name is Matt.
And I'm Dyl, and this is Fantasy Filmball. Thank you for tuning to this episode of Fantasy Filmball with Matt and Dyl. Keep up to date with us on Twitter at @FFilmball. Subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you prefer to listen to podcasts. We even upload a video format of the podcast to YouTube if you want to see our faces. Thank you for listening to this episode of the show, and come back next week.